The second major coincidence can be found when one looks at what Kek stood for among the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Kuk, K-U-K, also spelled Kek or Keku, and now this is where it gets like metaphysical almost and esoteric in the alt-right. Keku is and that's why everybody calls everybody a Kuk. Kek.
I mean, they're taking it. I mean, like I said, everybody's saying it out of context.
Yeah.
Now, cuck, short for cuckold, is when a mandingo black man fucks your white girlfriend or wife in a porno movie. Like we all know this. You guys masturbate to it all the time. Welcome back to the It Must Be Happy Hour podcast. We're doing an extended episode here. A couple weeks ago, we interviewed our friend Francis. He's a member of the alt-right. Apparently knows all the Donald Trump hand gestures there. And so, yeah, we're continuing where we left off from last week, talking about less about politics and more on why brother would join the alt-right movement, knowing that some of it's, bred in racism and white nationalism and such. So, why? Like that's one of my big questions. Why?
All right. Well, first of all, the alt-right itself is nothing to be scared of. The quote-unquote alt-right, the reason I took that name in particular, whereas a lot of alt-right black people are hoteps and whatnot, it's almost like a cultural appropriation of that name. During the election, every libertarian and everybody that was alternative right is simply, you have neocons and the uniparty Republican Party and the old school warhawks, and then you have a new generation of people coming up that don't buy into a lot of the Western imperialism and globalism, and there was it was always decentralized, and Hillary Clinton made the mistake of putting a name to it during the election, which she called it alt-right, and a lot of people stuck to that name, not knowing that Richard Spencer actually created that name. Now, Richard Spencer, he's an ethno-nationalist. And there's a lot of different camps, and there's no leaders. There's ethno-nationalists, there's civic nationalists, and that's where a lot of the black people that subscribe to views that are just alternative to the narrative that's kind of pushed on us by mainstream media and whatnot, where your group defines you and your race defines you, and you're a cis white male, or you're gay, or you're black, or you're this, and then they're stacking these groups, and then they get into their intersectionality, blah blah blah, and it becomes to the point where you lose your individualism, and you're just part of this group. And kind of what the alt-right is doing is we're taking back your individualism, your freedom, your personal liberties. It's classical libertarianism. It's civic nationalism. It's someone described it to me. They said they were an anarcho-capitalist nationalist. And that's kind of like a closed borders libertarian almost. So you have all these different, and then you can go, there's elements of race definitely involved. You have the 1488er guys, which are like the 14 is like the 14, I forget how it goes, protecting their white
Yeah, I mean, get
all
into all
that,
the
and then
details of that.
88 is the Hail Hitler,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you have different people, and there's a lot of stuff. See, when you think of Nazi and neo-Nazi and whatnot, like those people don't exist. And even in the alt right, there's a lot of LARPing going on, like live action role playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. There's one of the quote unquote. There's no real leaders. It's all decentralized. But
So it's like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. But just without the George Soros funding.
Okay.
But there's this guy. This is a funny story. Not to
Yeah.
put his business out there, but this guy, Mike Malik. So he's like this like hardcore like 1488er, and he's got like a lot of followers and whatnot. And the shit that he talks, it's fine and all, but like you can have your own opinion, and that's another thing on the right. We're not like scared of opinions. We're not like if someone's racist, that's their problem. It's not your problem. It doesn't have those people have no power over you, the individual. But anyway, this dude Mike Malik, he got doxxed, and then he had it turned out that he had like a Jewish wife, and people were like calling on him to like divorce his wife and stuff, and so that's why I call it like a lot of it like LARPing and live action role playing. And if you
it's like literally a game to some people. Like this is just like is this and then I want to go back into or try to get an understanding of why the movement, besides Richard Spencer, who is probably, one of the dumbest.
He might not be real either.
He might not be real. What is he, a hologram? Like
he works in Langley part time, and like I mean, he can have whatever opinion that he wants. Like you should be allowed to have a platform for whatever kind of speech. Like
but I want to know why the platform for this movement happens to be sort of anonymous. You're talking dark web. Places like 4chan, a lot of these people. I mean, you're the first person I've met that actually,
censored. Everything that's not social justice or that's not.
No, but why don't these people ever put a face? I stalked you on Facebook. I found out a lot of the alt-right people you follow, they either have that frog as their meme or Hitler or some kind of figure that represents, like Mussolini, some kind of figure that represents authoritarianism or this bullshit. So I wonder why these people want to remain anonymous, yet they want to control everything. And then they use Donald Trump as a figurehead to that. And they hardly look upon figures like Richard Spencer. I don't know if they think he's dumb or whatever, or David Duke, even a person who's in line with some of those ideals.
Not part of that movement, really.
I mean, there's certain things like anti-Semitism.
David Duke is funny.
Nationalism.
David Duke he's a lifelong Democrat, and he just endorsed.
That's not true.
No one's talking about this, but he endorsed Keith Ellison for the DNC chair. I mean, I don't listen to that guy. Whatever he can say, and even his rhetoric has gone way to the center. I mean,
his rhetoric has gone way to the center. Have you ever heard this man? I just saw an interview with him last year.
He's not dressing up in Klan robes anymore.
But he's so anti-Semitic.
He's back in politics, and that's fine. Those are his views. I don't share those views. You don't share those views. But you're allowed to have those views in America.
I understand that, but do you feel that those types of views should govern us?
No, not at all. No one is saying.
So how do you feel about
the left is actually saying that? Like, I know you're not part of that. And I say the left a lot, and I'm making just a broad generalization. I know that I'm talking about the social justice warrior, the alt-left, the far left, the Antifa guys. Yeah, they pretend the alt-left doesn't exist, but then you have, like, Antifa. And those guys are LARPing, too. They go to H&M and get their, like, shirts.
But see, that's the thing. The labels is what kills me. Because, and I've said this to you many times, and other people, like, you cannot be left or right with having some kind of ideals. What everybody's doing right now, and when I went on my little drunk rant a couple weeks ago, they're really taking positions based off of the popular rhetoric at the moment, which seems to be, a sort of dismantlement of what it means to be conservative or what it means to be liberal. Some of these people that are claiming to be liberal, like, I mean, I think you're more of a leftist than I am, and I'm more conservative. But my ideals point towards things like I'm anti-abortion. Maybe I don't want not so many women's rights. Maybe I'm a little scared of homosexuals. Things like that. That's very conservative. But a lot of these people in your movement, especially the underground part of it, don't give a fuck about that shit. They beat off the porn. They probably watch some tranny porn.
No,
They probably they do all this
really
stuff.
Conservative. One of the biggest things being pushed in 4chan is the no fap movement, and
the no fat.
No fap. Fapping is masturbating.
Oh, fap.
So no fap is because and it's worked, and it's actually worked its way onto like the Republican platform, because it's like an addiction. Honestly, like you watch too much porn, you lose your energy, and it's
most of these right wingers are the guys that have they're running the sex rings. They touch the kids. They do all this stuff. So
that's debatable.
It's debatable.
Yeah, 'cause there's no. I mean, what instance where you're saying where it's like conservative movement is like running a sex trafficking ring? Because they've busted up like thousands since Trump has gotten in, and these guys are like elitist globalists.
Thousands of
look up how many sex trafficking rings have been busted up lately.
It might be symbolic since you're all about conspiracies. Imagine if maybe they're busting them up because they don't want to get caught. So they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to bust up the things I used to use." Trump has been accused of some of that
stuff.
Trump's
been accused of being a Nazi and every other.
No, I'm just saying, but these things. How come? One of the big things with the alt-right movement or any of these things, or ultra, at least these conservatives, especially on social media, they'll believe any conspiracy theory that has to do with a left-wing politician or a Democrat. Let's just use. I'm not even going to go to the Hillary Clinton example. Let's go to the Bernie Sanders example. Like when Bernie Sanders bought a new house. All of a sudden, I see posts about him getting paid off by Hillary. He just bought this big-ass mansion on a lake. He bought a freaking house on the lake in Vermont. It was a $500,000 house. A $500,000 house, yeah, it's expensive. But he makes decent money. He got a book deal. He's doing all this stuff.
If he was a Republican, they'd be quick to say...
No. A Republican would be out there in a huge Mercedes and a big-ass mansion in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills or something like that. This guy just bought a house in his home state.
Bernie doesn't practice what he preaches, though.
He doesn't?
I think that's the thing. His 600,000 summer home, his second summer home,
home?
Yeah, whatever the house that he got, that conveniently he got when he was pushed out of the race.
What does Donald Trump have?
It's not that far-fetched.
What does Donald Trump have?
I mean, Donald Trump...
What does Steve Bannon have? Steve Bannon is all of them are wealthy.
Yeah, but they're not preaching socialism and whatnot.
Okay. But that's not for them particularly. You got to remember American ideals. What it means to be American is a ladder to success. If you're willing to work for it, you'll make it. If you can't, then you have to rely on the rest of us to take care of the rest of the country, or else that machine breaks. And what's been going on the last...
That's kind of... You have to work hard. Like you can't rely on that social net. You have to.
Well, I mean,
but with hard. You can't.
With wealth being like not distributed properly, you think about it. Like Bernie always says, the top 1/10 of 1% holds like whatever amount of the wealth, like 50% or something like that. How does a poor person function in this country when all the wealth is centralized between a few thousand people?
Well, that's why the alt-right even was started, because it's
to provide jobs.
You can't have the alt-right without the political aspect. It's nationalism, whatever form of the nationalism that it takes, versus the globalism. What you have is these guys that are sucking jobs out of the country. And they're not these non-elected bureaucrats who are
what jobs? What jobs are they sucking out the country?
All the NAFTA jobs that destroyed the middle class.
Okay, so wait. Can we backtrack? Can I explain something to you? Before NAFTA, and you could look this up, there's research on this. Americans made shitty cars because Americans, because of things like unions and all that stuff, and laziness coming off the whole baby boomer movement, they made shitty cars, had very attractive retirement plans, let's say, and all this other stuff. So manufacturing jobs were good. They were cushy jobs at one point, but quality went down. Productivity went down. If you look, wait, let me tell you something. If you look, the productivity of American workers, as far as this is a fact, as far as people that worked in manufacturing, mining, all that stuff, was flat, and then wages went flat because of that. Okay, so the only thing you can do, if they're not good jobs, they're just literally you're working as slave labor at this point. People were content with that. But then, if the quality's not good, and then you could find a Chinese person or a Mexican person who would break their back for 1/3 of the money, and then they can make it better, and all you have to do is pay a small import tax. Would you do that, or would you keep making shitty American products that nobody's going to buy globally, while Japan and China catch up or beat us?
Find a way to make better products.
You can't make better products when you don't have better workers.
Well, what happens when you don't want to give up your sovereignty? I mean,
what does that mean?
The EU, your sovereignty as an American and your sovereignty to make decisions. I mean, look at the EU.
Decisions on what?
For every part, every aspect of your life.
So wait, you're saying okay. So every aspect of your life. So if I'm a poor person and I say I want to keep my job, so that being said, I should work harder, right? Or do something better, or make it more productive, so it's worth my while. But I'm not doing that. Now, mind you, this goes on in the 80s all the way up to maybe the mid 90s, right when NAFTA was kicking in. So they're not. You're saying that they should have the sovereignty, they should have the freedom, or whatever you want to call it, to dictate what they do, but they don't want to work for it. Isn't that sort of some kind of backwards socialism or something? Like,
well,
like you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm working, but I'm just making a check, and I'm making shitty stuff.
Just look at the manufacturing. Look at manufacturing. Look at what we actually make in our country anymore. We don't make anything.
We make apps. We make money. We're a service economy.
We make money off of the military-industrial complex. There's a lot of it. It's big bubbles, and
yeah, but
it's just
look at the people that are striving now. Technology, service industries, telecom, things like that. Things that people consume. You're talking about, there's always going to be a need for somebody to work at a Target or a Walmart or at a cell phone store. There's always going to be a need for somebody to program a computer or whatever, or create technology. And we're great creators of that. But we have a whole section of the population in the middle part of the country that's the reason, that refuses to go in that direction. And I don't know how many of those people are in the alt-right, quote unquote, but they refuse to move in the direction of progress. You hear the term progressive movement, all this other stuff. A big part of that is education. And I'm a big advocate on that. And usually when I argue with people about this shit, I say education, education, education. If you're not as intelligent as the person who's making $200,000-$300,000 a year, you shouldn't be making $200,000-$300,000 a year. Gone are the days of when you could put a nut and a bolt together and make $50,000 a year. It's not going to happen, And that's part of the problem. People are regressive in the way they want this country to grow. They're looking at it like, hey, I want what I used to have. I want to dig a hole in the ground to pick coal and shit like my grandfather and make a good living because that's all I know. Or I wanna fucking build cars in Detroit like my dad because that's all I know. You can know more if you actually went to school.
What's wrong with building cars? What's wrong with manufacturing? I mean,
there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not what we do here.
The West Coast look down upon that, but there's nothing wrong with
it.
Jobs back, as well as having these other There's a lot of people without jobs right now, and we could bring a lot of jobs.
There's a lot of people without education. Where does it start though?
Back here.
Where does it start? I mean, we lost a whole generation. I mean, I'm talking like we're talking people that were born between, I would say almost lost a whole generation of these millennials, and the baby boomers are finding a financial crisis now because they took out too many loans. They bought too much real estate. They lived outside their means. So now as they retire, they're trying to hold on to scraps. And not baby boomers, millennials are fighting for scraps. And then you have a whole segment of the population that has shit. And I'm talking black people and white people. Poor black people and poor white people are the fucking same.
Of course. And that's all the effect. Like, that's 90% of that is the effects of globalism. There are lazy people who don't want to work.
Yeah, but how do you...
But there's people with no opportunities because everything has been going out of overseas.
I understand that, but what is the remedy to that? And what have... And I'm not even going to say...
That is bringing everything back.
You can't bring things back that don't... That you have to have some kind of level of intellect to do certain things nowadays, even manufacturing. Now, you might need a college diploma. What if for the new manufacturing jobs you need a college diploma because you need to know how to reprogram a robot?
We're bringing trades.
No, but no.
They were all looked down upon, but
everybody who's crying
bullshit like social justice.
If you go on YouTube and you look at these people that are crying and complaining about their mining jobs or their steel mill job or their fucking manufacturing job, half of them barely graduated from high school.
Jobs for a certain percent of
more than half of them. The majority of them barely graduated from high school. And how do you think they're going to make it if they now, with this particular administration, they're trying to privatize education. They're getting rid of Common Core so people can't even figure out how to solve problems. They'll know 1 + 1, but they don't know what 1 + 1 means in the real world.
All the problems, the Department of Education and all these regulations, before 1980 and before the Department of Education, you could in the 70s and even in the early 80s, you could work a job and work your way through college without taking out on the loans. And as soon as you add all these regulations,
it's 2017, bro.
When you
college
add regulations, when you add regulations, you get shitty. When the government is involved with anything, they ruin it. They completely ruin it. And
well, you're talking about which government? I mean, like there's a certain level.
The
federal government. Yeah, no, but I feel like state level governments also contribute to this. And if you look at how
definitely.
But if you look at the way Republicans have run the government for the last 7 to 8 years on the state level, the amount of cutbacks on education, the amount of tax relief given to rich people.
I don't know. I live in Philly. Look at all the cities. Look at Philly, Detroit, Chicago. All the cities are completely fucked, and the kids are so fucked. And you have these.
What's changed though about that? I mean, it's been the same since 1960.
Yeah, and that's when it started with Johnson and all the welfare programs, and then you have it again, more regulation.
But where does it happen the most though? Like in the black or the white neighborhood?
Both. Because I mean, in the
poorest,
like Appalachian areas, the poorest white neighborhoods and the poorest black neighborhoods, there's huge parallels.
Well, I'm just talking about inner city, right? Because
in the inner city, you have these women. And let's face it, it's 3 generations of black people that were paid to be Democrats, and then the women get stipends for breaking up with their boyfriends, and having more and more kids, and they have this the safety net got so big, and it's so relied on, it's embedded in parts of the culture. It's like
so they don't do that. They don't do that in Appalachia.
I think their problems happen in a different.
You ever watch that reality show Honey Boo Boo?
Yeah,
that is exactly. I mean, if that's a welfare queen. I mean, they got a reality show, but at the end of the day, that's a welfare queen.
I'm not saying it's a black thing, but in the city, but black people were trained indoctrinated, and everybody loved. Even when I was a kid, like you loved Bill Clinton, you play the saxophone, he was cool, and then you have like Barack Obama, who's cool, and he's like well spoken, and he's like smart, and you're like, holy shit, like that's what I want to be like. But my problem, like you have like conservatives and the alt-right, a lot of it is preserving culture. It's not about black and white, it's culture. Um, uh, in the 60s, in the 70s, black people had such a strong culture. The divorce rate was, no one was getting divorced. Like, the only problem that we had was Jim Crow, and that would have we would have gotten rid of that anyway. And then it just destroyed the black family, all of the welfare and the entitlement programs. And that's you need two parents, to you need a strong family.
That's not necessarily true. No, you need money.
That's just what I believe.
You need money. You need money because I
know
a lot. Most of I grew up in a white neighborhood. Most of my friends had divorced parents.
So did I. Yeah.
And they were fine. I mean, they might grow up a little fucked up in the head, but they were fine financially. They had the best of everything. When you don't have money, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Say that one more time.
I said.
I missed.
Oh, I said most of my friends growing up. I lived in mostly white neighborhood, Long Island, New York. It was all the way out east of Long Island, and at the time, this is the late '80s, mid '90s, or whatever. A lot of my friends were, their parents were divorced. But they still had good lives because they had money, and it was a matter of just splitting time between one parent or the other, but they still had the best schools, they still had the best clothes, the best food, all that stuff. And if you're talking about houses that are broken up because in the inner cities or whatever, because the dad goes away to jail for having a 40 ounce on the street or selling a little bit of marijuana, that's different than then whatever. It's all about the circumstances are different. Coming from a quote unquote broken household doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a fucked up individual.
But you said like the difference was they had money. When you're going from your dad's like house to your mom's house, and
it's the same for black people too.
It's a lot different.
If they had money,
different here. It's different.
Well, I mean, look, you're talking about inner city Philly, inner city New York, inner city Chicago. Those things have been fucked up since the beginning of time, okay?
No, they haven't, though. It started in like 60, 65.
Well, whatever,
like,
yeah.
When the parties switched, it's like we never got out of Jim Crow. We kind of like Jim Crowed ourselves. It's like...
You can say, I know what you're saying, but
if that's not the problem, then what is wrong? Because, and this is like there's things on the alt-right where you call red pills, and saying this, like, you can't really say this on national TV or else you're like a racist or a sexist, but and you don't want to say it like Bill Cosby when he's like fucking an asshole talking about like like. You can say that black people need to do better. Like, we need to do better. Of
course, I'm a big critic of black people.
And
I think these niggas could do
We have
better.
to figure out, and we have to ask these kind of questions. And a good person who has like good show notes and links and lots of references is Stefan Molyneux, and he does a whole like series on peaceful parenting and two parent households and divorce. That's like his whole thing.
But you should look into as well. I mean, we were talking about this last week. You should look up the brother Tariq Nasheed. I think.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, Tariq Nasheed. I think he has a podcast too. But Tariq Nasheed, I listen to him a lot. I don't particularly care for a lot of his rhetoric because he speaks to like people in the inner cities and all that other stuff. He's very, I would say almost militant in a sense when it comes down to it. But he's also, since you're into conspiracies, he's also into conspiracy as well. But not on that level where, it's mostly like, white supremacy doing this to us and that to us. He's not affected by what's going on with the politics right now or anything. He's more so about like black people organizing and taking back their community and doing all this stuff, starting their business. But one thing, my biggest critique of him, and he's totally anti-Hotep too, so don't. Yeah. All right, we're still recording. All right, so. Yeah, so your brother Tariq, he's an interesting cat. If you go listen to his podcast or something, let me know what your feedback is on that. But The struggle of the black community is something, like you said, it's been going on since the 60s. I say the beginning of time, but maybe the beginning of my time or our time on this earth. And it hasn't changed much. And that's systemic.
Back in the day, though, we were stronger. Um, I say we a mix. So my black side. No, but we were stronger as families. Like the divorce rate was nil. There was strong family. There was strong church. There was strong community. Now another thing that the alt-right believes is that was destroyed because of cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
And that would have started around after I believe World War I, and it came out of the Frankfurt School, because when communism failed, a lot of the intellectual scholars believed that the only way, because communism was supposed to be a classless movement or whatever, and so the only way to bring communism into the world, and there is an element of people that believe in social Marxism or cultural Marxism, and is to destroy all of the cultures. So some people don't buy into cultural Marxism or whatever, but if you believe in it, then it's the system that's created. It's in your schools. It's like it's the whole intersectionality, destroying the family. It's in media where they emasculate the males and where they have like 56 genders now, and I think so where the alt-right gets that racist label or whatever is they're opposed to that. So they're more protectors of culture than anything else. And I think I think the left and the right would actually have a lot more in common if we had more dialogue like this.
Yeah.
Because we disagree on there's fundamental things that the left and the right will disagree on. Free market and then socialism or whatever. But it's a lot of the same, because the right, a lot of the alt-right, they're just like cultural justice words. And if you think about it, like Richard
alt-right,
Spencer,
you said it's social justice words?
They're culture justice.
Culture justice words. Okay.
Social justice words, and they're the protectors of their group. And
what culture? See, the problem here is the disconnect.
Western culture, American culture.
It's not Western culture
that we have.
But you're talking. America is a melting pot of many different cultures. We appreciate. What's like, Western culture? Hamburgers and hot dogs? Like, what the fuck is Western culture?
It's Americana. It's Americana.
What the fuck is Americana?
It's why when people grow up, who live other places,
wait. So you're saying, wait. So if you break down what Americana is, if you want to look back to what made America great, you're talking racism, fucking slavery. Well, no, not slavery. Like racism, racism. That's one big thing that's American.
All that stuff is there,
but that's what that white supremacy is American culture. At the end of the day, in my opinion, I think white culture.
Maybe if you buy into that at one point, I don't think white supremacy is everywhere as prevalent. I think there are racist people on both sides.
Oh yeah,
but I don't think the system is racist, because the system, they're global.
No, the system is racist.
They don't care about color. They'll fuck anybody over. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish. It doesn't matter.
In America, the system.
If you're working class man, you're poor Indian, poor white.
No.
They don't see that. They don't.
I understand. I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, the system is rigged towards the majority of people, and right now. And what a lot of these alt-right or these white nationalists are worried about.
President for 8 years. Like,
no. So you can't use Barack Obama as an excuse. It's progressive values that one. No, it was people, not progressive value, but people being pissed with what George W. Bush did to his country. That made it was people not liking a Hillary Clinton or not being ready for a woman president at that time that got Barack Obama in. Mind you, he was, in my opinion, a mediocre president.
I do too. I mean, a lot of people like on the right, they're like, "Oh, Obama's the worst president ever." I like Obama as far as the communicator. I think he was wacky with social issues and stuff, And I think, I don't know, he could have, if he had 100 days like Trump, and he just started signing shit in when he had like that, I think
He did
he
stuff like that though.
Gitmo closed. He could have done a lot, but it doesn't matter.
He couldn't get Gitmo closed. Nobody could do that.
Yeah,
It's the same problem this guy's having trying to get rid of Obamacare. It's one of those things like, what do you do with these people? You know, there's a lease on that land. We have to pay for it. There's a lot of little nuances there that prevented it.
I feel like the Democrats just don't want the Republicans because Rand Paul has something proposed. A lot of people are saying that they have stuff proposed already, but I don't know. Do you want to get back to any questions or anything?
Yeah, let's get into the culture of the alt-right. I actually have specific questions.
Marxism and shit.
I have some specific questions about the alt-right culture. Let's start from the top. I've done a little research on the little frog, Pepe. I don't understand why that's a symbol. Isn't it kind of immature? Doesn't it kind of... No. Why is it such a meaningful...
Bring this up real quick. This is a guy, forget who wrote this, but this is a WordPress article. It's called "The Truth About Pepe the Frog and the Cult of Keck."
Yeah, I've read
that. This shit. I'll just start.
Pepe. I mean, that cartoon's been around since what, 1995 or something. I
think it was a Reddit guy who he did some acid. It was a lefty guy.
It was a cartoon. It's like a YouTube channel, I think. It was like an animated cartoon and a comic book.
Or whatever. He did acid and saw Pepe. But he was not he wasn't. Now there's a lot of Pepes. All right, I'm just gonna read from this real quick because this explains it better than I can. Because whenever I talk about it, I always get all excited and forget points and shit.
Gets excited over cartoon frog.
So this
amazing.
is Pepe the Frog Faith at wordpress.com if anybody wants to look this shit up. But I'll cut right to the chase. Pepe the Frog isn't a white nationalist symbol. Pepe the Frog isn't a harmless meme propagated by teenagers on the internet. Pepe the Frog is in fact a modern-day avatar of the ancient Egyptian deity accidentally resurrected by an online image board culture. Does it sound like the most batshit crazy thing you've ever heard? Strap in, friendo, you're in for one hell of a ride. And then this was updated recently too. When memes collide, the origins of Pepe the Frog. The precise origins of Pepe the Frog are, like most image boards, memes are obscure and unimportant. All you really need to know is that sometime around 2010, a sad-looking cartoon frog began to trend among the posters of 4chan.org, similar to the underground image board. Shortly after, the age-old piece of online vernacular used to express the laughter, LOL, fell out in favor of these sites. In place, a new slang term, synonymous meaning, rose to the common use, keck. The origins of this trend are much more important because it comes from a technicality involving the Korean language in a popular video game, World of Warcraft. Keep that in mind for later. I'm going to skip that for a second. Donald Trump in the 2016 election. By this time, Pepe the Frog had become the unofficial mascot for 4chan's political discussion board, a highly despised corner of the internet, fittingly entitled Politically Incorrect or Poll. Poll is a place where unspoken outsiders of the millennial culture gather in mass. Here you'll find the lonely, the depressed, the socially inept, the generational dropouts, and all the shades of disenfranchised youth, every one of them united by the unshakable underdog mentality that pervades the forum's every kilobyte. To call this place a white nationalist or alt-right message board is categorically incorrect. Poll, above all else, is a place where our society's status quo is mercilessly challenged. It's a melting pot for the well-meaning free thinkers and misguided men alike. It is a place for chaos. So when Donald Trump strolled onto the political scene in 2015, it was a match made in heaven. He immediately became Poll's candidate of choice. And it wasn't long before Trump was mated with Poll's beloved mascot in typical image board fashion. So then everybody just started posting, Pepe with Trump. And then something very strange began to happen. The digits declare a deity. One last thing you need to understand about image board culture subs is that every post on 4chan and in similar venues comes with an 8-digit numerical stamp because everybody's anonymous, so you just get an 8-digit numerical stamp. This number represents the post's entry position in the entire posting lineage of the image board. With the amount of traffic that these sites get, the last couple digits are essentially a random roll. When the poster gets repeated digits, it's called dubs, trips, quads, and so on. Since a poster can't know their post number until they've submitted the post, it's common for people to bet the contents of their message on the occurrence of repeating digits. So when the endeavor proves successful, get, quote unquote, has been made and the stroke of luck is celebrated. Out of this practice, a strange phenomenon began to take place on the poll discussion threads associated with Trump, displayed noticeably with frequent gets. So anytime they posted Trump, you'd get quads, trips, doves, anything they posted about Trump. It wasn't long before all these seemingly random elements discussed so far became irreparably tied together within image board culture. Pepe the Frog, now poll's unofficial mascot. Donald Trump, poll's overwhelming candidate of choice, repeating the digit numbers, and kek, used as an expression of delight, in particular response to Trump's trolling of the establishment, as well as the reaction to unlikely gets in general. Here's where it starts to get weird. Soon it became the rage on poll to hail Trump as nothing less than God's chosen candidate. But which God's chosen candidate exactly? The answer was obvious, kek. Remember how we learned that kek, the meme, came out of the obscure Korean language onomatopoeia completely independently from Pepe the Frog? Well, it turns out kek is also and always has been an ancient Egyptian deity, a frog-headed one. Quite the coincidence when you say it. A little, perhaps, you reply. A little indeed, but that's just the very tip of the synchronicity iceberg. And that's where this unfathomable string of coincidences begins. And where does it end? We just don't know. Day by day, this all just keeps getting stranger. The second major coincidence can be found when one looks at what kek stood for among the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Kuk, K-U-K, also spelled kek or keku. And now this is where it gets like metaphysical almost and esoteric in the alt-right. Keku is and that's why everybody calls everybody a kuk. Kek.
I mean, they're taking it. I mean, like I said, everybody's saying it out of context.
Yeah.
Now, cuck, short for cuckold, is when a mandingo black man fucks your white girlfriend or wife in a porno movie. We all know this. You guys masturbate to it all the time because that's the fantasy that these guys have. And
there's a chant. It's stop masturbating.
No. Y'all, look. I went on. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear any more about this frog. I just want. You get a very good synopsis of what it means, but it's
real quick.
Right, go ahead.
They found. So it got weirder and weirder. Online, they found a statue with hieroglyphs of a frog, the ancient statue of Kek, and on the bottom of it, underneath it has hieroglyphics, but the hieroglyphics looked like a woman using a computer, and then there was something that looked like a DNA strand, and so everybody on 4chan flipped out. They said, oh, that's the memes. That's the memes defeating Hillary Clinton on the computer. And then the email stuff comes out. So then Hillary Clinton, so the memes get so big, Hillary Clinton addresses it. She addresses Pepe. 4chan goes nuts. And they work, quote, their kek magic on her. The next day on September 11th, that's when she had the collapse and they had threw her in the van. I don't know if you remember that. And then after that, they found, somebody found a YouTube song from a from a group called, what was the group called? The group was called Pepe, P-E-P-E, and it stands for Point Emerging Probability Entering, right? And on this record, there was a big, on this Pepe record, this is the old Italian group from the 80s, 1986, and so it's a frog with a magic wand with a spiral, and it says magic sound, and on the top, the song's called Shadalay, and it's all about crazy reality tunnels, and it's in Italian, but when you translate it, it's all about parallel universes and all this shit, and so that's where the Shadalay comes from. When you hear Shadalay,
I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, man, that's and so and then and on this record, it was produced by Ass Art, and then
Ass Art?
it says produced by Ass Art, and then it says quote unquote Pepe, and so 4chan went nuts because Ass Art is they equate it to shit posting, and shit posting is well, you see me shit post on Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
You know, trolling, getting the reaction.
Yeah.
And so, and then on the cover of the Pepe, this group's album, it's a man with golden hair, and he's looking on top, and then he's looking at like a clock, and it just, it just, the coincidences around Pepe and the Egyptian deity Kek is just, it's like the glue. It was the glue that united all of the alt-right together.